Welcome you all to the video lecture on signals and system. So today we are going to find out the system function, impulse response, step response for the following difference equation. Y of n minus 3 by 4 y of n minus 1 plus 1 by 8 y of n minus 2 that is equal to x of n. So since we are dealing with the discrete time system, we are going to apply Z transform here. So two transformations we can apply for discrete time system here in signals and system, that is Z transform and DTFT, and they didn't mention the type of the transformation, so we can easily apply the Z transform here. So applying the Z transform, we are going to find out the system function. So specifically system function is given by h of z, which is nothing but y of z by x of z, and then we are going to find out the impulse response followed by step response. Okay, so the given equation is y of n minus 3 by 4 y of n minus 1 plus 1 by 8 y of n minus 2 that is equal to x of n. So first apply the Z transform for this equation. So we know the Z transform of y of n is y of z. So apply the Z transform. So apply the Z transform for the given difference equation. The Z transform of y of n is given by y of z and then minus 3 by 4. For Z transform of y of n minus 1 is, so since we have n minus 1, that is nothing but z power minus 1. And for y of n it is y of z, and then plus 1 by 8. For y of n minus 2, again since we have n minus 2, we can write it as z power minus 2. For y of n we have y of z, and then that is equal to x of z. So in simple, the Z transform of y of n minus a, we can write it as z power minus a y of z. So using that concept, we are applying the Z transform here. So for this term, we have z power minus 2 y of z. Here we have right hand side only x of n. So Z transform of x of n is x of z. So in the left hand side, take y of z commonly outside. So we have 1 minus 3 by 4 z inverse plus 1 by 8 z power minus 2. And in the right hand side, we have x of z. So we know the transfer function or system function is given by h of z, which is y of z by x of z So when we take y of z by x of z, right hand side we have only 1 divided by the denominator 1 minus 3 by 4 z inverse plus 1 by 8 z power minus 2. So the next is we need to find out your impulse response and step response. So it will be easy for us to convert inverse z terms into positive z power terms. So how will you convert? So multiply and divide by z square. So it will be of z square divided by z square minus 3 by 4 z plus 1 by 8. So z square into 1 is z square, here also z square, here it will become z, here it will be the constant value 1 by 8. So now this is your transfer function. So let us find out your impulse response. So for your impulse response, meaning that we are going to use the impulse signal as input. So x of n is del of n. The z transform of x of n, that is given by x of z, is nothing but 1. So z transform of del of n is 1. So wherever I have x of z, I have to replace it by 1. So I already know y of z by x of z is z square divided by z square minus 3 by 4 z plus 1 by 8. So here I am going to use this x of z term as 1. Okay, so I can write your y of z as this term. And again, for finding out your y of n, we have to apply the partial fraction. So for your z transform, always before applying the partial fraction, we have to take one z to the left hand side. So when you take one z to the left hand side, how can I write this equation? Y of z by z is equal to, numerator it is z, divided by, so factorize this term. Okay, use your calculator and factorize. So you should apply your a value as 1, b value as minus 3 by 4, c value as 1 by 8. So when you factorize, you will get your factors as z minus 0.25 and z minus 0.5. Okay, so you'll be getting like this. So use your calculator and find out your factors. So now for this term, I have to apply your partial fraction. So I can write y of z by z, that is equal to z by, one term is z minus 0.25, another term is z minus 0.5. So actually it is 0.25 is what 1 by 4, 0.5 is what 1 by 2. So when you multiply minus 1 by 4 minus 1 by 2, you will get 1 by 8. When you add minus 1 by 4 and minus 1 by 2, you will get minus 3 by 4. Okay. So you can use your fractional terms also, or else you can use decimal point values. So apply the partial fraction. A by z minus 0.25 plus b by z minus 0.5. So left hand side is z, a into z minus 0.5 plus b into z minus 0.25. Substitute z equal to 0.5. Okay, so you'll be getting left hand side as 0.5 equal to, anyway first term get cancelled, so b into 0.5 minus 0.25. So you will get 0.5 equal to 0.25b. So using this we can find out b value is 2. And similarly the next value you have to substitute z equal to 0.25. So if so, left hand side is 0.25, that is equal to a into 0.25 minus 0.5. So which implies here 0.25 minus 0.5 is minus 0.25. So when you find out the value, a becomes minus 1. Okay. So now a value is minus 1, b value is 2. Substitute in this equation. So what happens? Y of z by z is minus 1 by z minus 0.25 plus 2 by z minus 0.5. Okay. So y of z by z is minus 1 by z minus 0.25 plus 2 by z minus 0.25. So take z to the right hand side. So at the final step we can take z to the right hand side. So minus z by z minus 0.5 plus 2z by z minus 0.5. So apply inverse Z transform. So y of z becomes y of n, and then minus z minus z by z minus 0.25 becomes 0.25 the whole power n u of n, plus 2 for z by z minus 0.25 you have 0.5 the whole power n u of n. So this is the final equation for your impulse response. So substitute x of n is equal to del of n and x of z becomes 1. Okay, and then find out your values. So here only thing you have to remember that you have to take one z to the left hand side before applying the partial fraction, and you have determined a value as minus 1, b value as 2, And once you have done that, substitute in the given equation, find out the inverse Z transformation. Okay. So next is we have to find out your step response. Okay. So for finding out your step response, again we have to take your original equation y of z by x of z, that is given by z square divided by z square minus 3 by 4z plus 1 by 8. Okay. So this equation I have to take. This I already know that this is z square divided by z minus 0.25 into z minus 0.5. So for your step response, your x of n is given by u of n and x of z is given by, apply the z transform for this, it will be z by z minus 1. Okay. So usually for Laplace and all it is 1 by s. Okay. So don't confuse with that. Here z transform of u of n is z by z minus 1. So we have to substitute that. So x of z is denominator. So when you take that to the right hand side, it will be in the numerator. So I can write your y of z as z square divided by z minus 0.25 into z minus 0.5 into x of z. X of z is z by z minus 1 for your step response. Again, before applying your partial fraction, take one z to the left hand side. So you have the equation as y of z by z is equal to z square divided by all three factors, z minus 0.25 into z minus 0.5 into z minus 1. So when you apply partial fraction, it is a by z minus 0.25 plus b by z minus 0.5 plus c by z minus 1. So now the left hand side is z square. So here we have to find out here, we have to cross multiply and find out your a value, b value and c value. Okay. So now left hand side is z square, and when we cross multiply, so here the term is z minus 0.25. Okay. So other terms are z minus 0.5 into z minus 1. So for b, have z minus 0.25 into z minus 1. For c, we have z minus 0.5 into z minus 0.25. Okay. So we have to substitute z equal to 0.5. Let me substitute z equal to 0.5. So 0.5 into 0.5 is 0.25. So anyway, a get cancelled, c get cancelled. I can find out the b value. So 0.5 minus 0.25 is 0.25. 0.5 minus 1 is 0.5. Okay, so this value get cancelled. So 1 by 0.5 is 2. So b value is minus 2. And substitute z equal to 0.25. So I have 0.25 the whole square, that is equal to, so b and c get cancelled, I'll get only a value. 0.25 minus 0.5 is minus 0.25 into 0.25 minus 1 is 0.25 minus 1 is minus 0.75. So 0.5, 1.5, 1.25, 1.25 get cancelled. Minus into minus will become plus. Okay. So a value will becomes 0.25 divided by 0.75, which is nothing but 1 by 3. So a value is 1 by 3. Finally, substitute z is equal to 1. So 1 square is 1, and we can find out c value. 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5. 1 minus 0.25 is 0.75. So 1 divided by this value, we can find out that it is 2.666, and it will be going on. So we can write it as c is equal to 2.667. Okay. So A equal to 1 by 3, B equal to minus 2, C equal to 2.667. So we have to substitute all those values in the y of z. Okay. So this equation we have to substitute. So A is 1 by 3, B is minus 2, C is 2.667. So already we know y of z by z is A is 1 by 3 divided by z minus 0.25. B value is minus 2 divided by z minus 0.5. C value is 2.667 divided by z minus 1. Take z to the right hand side. So y of z becomes 1 z by z minus 0.25 minus 2 z by z minus 0.5 z by z minus 1. So now apply inverse z transform on both sides. Z becomes y of n. Here we have 1 by 3. So inverse z transform of z by z minus 0.25 is 0.25 the whole power n u of n minus 2 z by z minus 0.5 means 0.5 the whole power n u of n plus 2.667 z by z minus 1 is nothing but u of n. So we should know that inverse z transform of z by z minus a is a power n u of n, and z by z minus 1 is u of n. So using that formula we can apply the inverse z transform. So we have to use this formula. So this is your step response. Okay. 1 by 3.25 the whole power n u of n minus 2.5 the whole power n u of n plus 2.667 u of n. Thank you. Thanks for watching.